Yep, I'm on three. I'm on three. I'm on three. I'm on three, talking in my normal volume, talking about stuff. Got me? IFB, gotcha. Right now, on the National Weather Desk, a cross-country storm arrives in the Northeast after it brought blizzard conditions and powerful winds to many parts of the country.
We had about 18 trees come down.
As the Pacific Northwest cleans up from a week of floods, there's still a risk of more levee breaches and landslides.
Because it takes time for all that water to seep down into the water table.
Visitors to the largest ski resort in California ask, where's the snow?
So really, we can expect this to happen about every 4 years.
They may look pretty, but ice shelves on the Great Lakes are dangerous.
In reality, it's unstable and unpredictable, with potential thinned or weakened spots throughout the ice.
And why winters are getting warmer in many parts of the country.
But less cold doesn't mean never cold.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. It's a wet and windy day today in the Northeast as a coast-to-coast storm packing powerful winds arrived this morning. High wind warnings and wind advisories stretch from North Carolina to Maine. Areas around Washington, D.C., New York, and Boston could see gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour. Strong winds will continue to blow out west, too, including the Pacific Northwest, Montana, and Wyoming. On Thursday, winds in Colorado's foothills topped 100 miles per hour. That's equivalent to a Category 2 hurricane. In the Denver area, they topped 60 miles per hour, leading to a ground stop at the airport. The storm also brought blizzard conditions to North Dakota. Gabriel Ostler is in Fargo.
Visibility on the roads in the Fargo-Moorhead area remained passable in the morning hours of December 18th, but rapidly progressed to become heavily obscured as the day wore on. Perhaps the biggest impacts of this winter storm were to the electrical grid. Xcel Energy seemed to be hit the hardest, with a couple of transformers briefly going offline near downtown Fargo. Otter Tail and Grand Forks County also saw some outages.
It's really the weather pattern. You know, I know the weather's a little worse north of our service territory. It just kind of depends how those weather tracks, whether one utility gets hit or another utility doesn't.
While the Cass County Electrical Cooperative got lucky with only one of their lines being felled by a tree branch.
Power also continues to be a problem in Washington state, where the storms first struck on Tuesday. This is especially true on Whidbey Island in the Puget Sound north of Seattle. Claire Weber shows us how the community is coping.
Once they said high winds, I went, here we go. Back-to-back nights of high wind on Whidbey Island have knocked power for thousands.
I think we had a 45-mile-an-hour gust. I've got a little meter there, so I can tell.
Rocky Shore's home in the Clinton area has been in the dark for 2 days.
I'm set up for it because I've been here a long time, and just turn the generator on when I get up in the morning and turn it off when I go to bed at night.
Puget Sound Energy says power lines are down and some badly damaged in 70 different spots across the island. In the meantime, other residents fill up propane tanks to power their homes and businesses.
We had about 18 trees come down in the windstorm, so yesterday was a lot of picking those up, cutting those up.
The Bible camp where Grant Balek works is grateful that no one was injured during the windstorm.
It sounded like you're in a war zone. I have a metal roof on my house at camp.
While the camp's cleanup efforts are underway despite still being in the dark.
Before we leave for the Christmas break, hopefully we can get everything cleaned up.
So are Puget Sound Energies, with crews clearing at least 3 of 4 trees that fell into power lines. Still, neighborhoods like Shores are patiently waiting to turn their generators off.
The whole island was out, but they always start at the north where the Navy base is, and they work their way south, so we're the last ones to get the lights turned on.
And it's been more than a week since relentless rain started and brought flooding to western Washington. This morning, evacuation zones are shrinking as crews work to repair breached levees. Joel Marino has more.
Heavy machinery clears the way to install a new line of defense along the White River and Pacific after Tuesday's levee breach sent water rushing into the neighborhoods.
We're trying to contain the water along this new wall that we're building.
Mayor Vic Cave said these new walls sit just outside the original HESCO barriers that were added to the levee system years ago.
We're not necessarily reinforcing the actual current wall that's in place. We're tying into it in places, and then we have a containment wall built, so if we have a breach, we can contain where the water goes and flows.
An overhead view shows how the barrier creates another layer of separation to protect surrounding homes. As a result, evacuation zones are being reduced, but many people aren't taking any chances as more storms roll through.
There's more water. Since more water, we might go under again. So that's why we're not going back 100% yet. So we're just going back and forth.
At the peak of the flooding, about 220 homes and as many as 800 people were affected. Some houses took up to a foot of water, and damage assessments are still underway.
Realistically, we believe we can get people back into their homes this weekend.
In some Midwestern cities, like here in South Bend, Indiana, we're concerned about a possible flash freeze overnight as temperatures plummeted from the mid-50s to the teens. But in most places, it appears most of the water on the roads evaporated before the cold got there. Meteorologist Zach Hatcher has more on how a flash freeze develops.
There is a couple things that have to come together for this to happen. Well, you have to have some rainfall, of course. Rainfall then coats the road. It could be maybe a 1/4 inch or an inch of rain, but it doesn't take much sometimes. And then you can get this thin layer of ice here overnight, and it's called black ice. It's actually not black, it's transparent, but it blends in with the road, dark surfaces. That's where it got the term. But it's very hard to spot, and that comes through a flash freeze. Now, another thing that you need is a large drop in temperature over a short period of time. So let's say, for instance, middle 50s, road surfaces are about 48 to 51, and then you get that good 15 to 20 degree drop over a matter of just a couple hours, then maybe an additional degree drops or two overnight, and you get those temperatures down to the upper teens, lower 20s before sunrise, and you can get a flash freeze. Now, winds can sometimes dry the roads out, and that will kind of work against it, but whenever winds are lighter, you're more likely to get a flash freeze.
Now, in a normal year, much of the terrain at Western ski resorts would already be open to skiers and snowboarders, but that's not the case this season. Snowfall has been scarce. California's Palisades Tahoe Resort typically sees about 33 feet of snow each year. But as Connor McGill reports, this season is off to a very different start.
The magic carpet at Palisades Tahoe currently the only option for skiers and snowboarders to get on the snow. For some, this is a holiday trip to the Sierra, just not the winter scene they were hoping for.
We're here for a whole week, hoping to get some snow, but nothing so far.
The lack of snow was hard to miss, and for many visitors, it's a big change.
In years past, I'm used to coming up here during Thanksgiving time, opening weekend, and there being a ton of snow, getting some good laps in with my girlfriend, but this year we came up and all that's open is the magic carpet.
Patrick Lacey with Palisades Tahoe says the slow start to winter is not uncommon, but one they're watching closely.
So really, we can expect this to happen about every 4 years, a bad start to the winter. But ultimately, there's been winters that have had a really low start, but a crazy amount of snow in January and February.
For now, the challenges remain real. Limited terrain, fewer lifts, and questions about when conditions will turn around.
This is super concerning. I would have expected there to be a lot more snow by now.
An ice shelf is forming on Lake Michigan along the South Bend, Indiana shoreline. And while it may look pretty, officials are warning people to stay off the ice. As Shelby Whitaker reports, there are many hidden dangers.
This ice shelf happens on Lake Michigan nearly every year, creating a mix of slush, ice, and snow.
It's forming as a fragmented structure, which can have air pockets in it. In addition, when we get snow, it can be impossible to understand where the water begins and the beach ends.
The ice shelf bringing many to take photos of the frozen elements, but it can be dangerous if viewed improperly, and those viewing should never walk out on the ice.
Stay off the ice. You're going to get no better picture, and you're going to eventually risk losing your life.
Ice volcanoes can also be formed in the ice shelves, water breaking a hole in one of the weak spots and continually pushing waves through the layer of ice, causing a mound or the volcano shape to form, sometimes towering nearly 20 feet.
And oftentimes, people's natural, thought is, I see a hill, I want to climb it. And they climb up to the top of it, which is going to be the most delicate part of it. And then if you fall through, you're in like an ice cave where you might fall through 5 feet, 10 feet. And then the inside of this is going to be, smooth as glass and wet and ice. You can't climb out.
And don't forget, winter officially starts on Sunday morning. The winter solstice is at 10:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, marking the shortest day and the longest night of the year. Next week, we'll start getting more daylight. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, why winters are getting warmer in many parts of the country, and why Washington State's landslide risk could extend for days and weeks, even though the rain has stopped.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. It's a stormy day in the Northeast today. We have heavy rain, strong winds, power outages are likely. Here we are during the morning hours. We're tracking a cold front approaching from the west. Ahead of this front, we'll get into some heavy rain and strong winds. Winds will likely gust over 50 miles per hour. Greatest chance for some of those outages will be along the coastline, especially in New England. That's the front right there around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Immediately behind the front, the wind shifts over the west and colder air moves in for Saturday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. A strong front's going to continue to push through the region. It will bring an end to the rain, but the winds will increase dramatically. 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts or even higher will be possible. We will also see temperatures falling throughout the afternoon. So we had milder temperatures around for the morning. In the 50s, we'll be dropping to the 20s and 30s for Friday afternoon. A little bit warmer recovery back on Saturday into the 40s.
I'm meteorologist Charlotte Carl. A nice Friday ahead. We are going to see temperatures in the upper 40s, mid 50s just to the north of I-20, around I-10 closer to the 60s in the afternoon. Still pleasant as that front progresses through. I-4 south, we're going to be in the low and middle 80s. We are going to see a few isolated showers passing through the Carolina coastline and South Florida following that by Friday evening. Things should be much drier for most of us as high pressure settles in across the area.
I'm David Holtman, meteorologist at Iowa's News Now, weather first in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and you're watching the National Weather Desk.
And while the atmospheric river storms have finally let up in western Washington, the landslide risk will continue for days, if not longer. Seattle meteorologist George Waldenberger spoke with a geomorphologist to understand the slide risk.
So if the soil is already saturated, it doesn't take as much rain to put it over the limit. So if you have a dry sponge, you got to add water to it to wet it up. We're now at the point where the regional sponge is soaked, and so you could expect to see more landslides for the same amount of rain for future atmospheric rivers in the next, until the slopes dry out. That's where the different kinds of landslides start to come in and influence how we think about it. For this and if we think about landslides as having two basic characters, there's shallow landslides that are pretty much involved just the soil slipping off, so the vegetation, the trees, the soil, but not much in the way of the underlying geology. The typically most destructive landslides we see in western Washington are these shallow, rapidly moving ones that respond to the 1, 2, 3 day kind of rainfall. So if we have a couple weeks of dry weather, the landslide risk really goes down. Even a few days of dry weather will help, but the sponge takes longer than that to drain. Then there's the kind of landslides like the Oso landslide, where the whole mountainside goes. And those are deep-seated landslides that involve more than that. Those are ones where it takes longer for the water to filter down to the level of where that groundwater is. For the shallow landslides, you're really just soaking the soil up. But for the deep-seated ones, it's really the deeper groundwater table that's generating the slide. So like the Oso slide, for example, it happened on the first nice day of spring, but it reflected the intense rainfall of the previous couple months. So,
because it takes time for all that water to seep down into the water table, down to that potential failure plane, which is pretty low, right?
Exactly. And so we've even had examples of, late spring and summertime deep-seated landslides after really wet winters.
Now, winter officially starts this weekend, but after a cold couple of weeks, a warm-up is on the way for much of the country. But in an era of climate change, winters are becoming warmer. And Charleston meteorologist Sonia Stevens takes a closer look at how the season is changing in the southeast.
Winter is the fastest warming season in Charleston.
Science tells us that the world is getting warmer as a direct result of more heat-trapping gases that we release into the atmosphere. We're going to see less cold days, but less cold doesn't mean never cold. We're still going to see those batches of Arctic air coming down. The longest cold snaps have been reduced at least 7 days in Charleston compared to what we saw back in 1970.
Although shorter and less intense, the cold snaps could still cause issues for farmers.
Peaches and other fruits that are grown in South Carolina, they require a little bit of cold air. It's called like winter dormancy, essentially. And if they don't have that, the trees themselves could bloom early or start to produce buds early. And if a late season freeze comes later than that, it could wipe out a big crop just in a weekend.
Meanwhile, there are other issues caused by the more common warm and wet weather combination.
We're seeing more of leads to a higher likelihood of plant-borne diseases as well as blights. Take, for example, fungal infestations of valuable plant species.
Another impact of a warming winter is a longer allergy season, which could mean a few more achoo's in your future.
Allergy sufferers now sometimes have to take medication year-long because that winter dormancy isn't there. And that winter dormancy also isn't as prevalent or as strong for other things such as pests like mosquitoes and ticks.
All public health issues to be concerned with as the climate warms. Numbers from Climate Central show that record heat is far outpacing record cold here in Charleston.
Now, a snow devil is a rare weather sight. It's similar to a dust devil, but it happens in cold conditions. Meteorologist Dante Ricci and Brandon Stover explains how they form.
That is incredible. You oftentimes think of these over the desert because it requires a lot of surface heating to get that air rising, and then it ingests a little spin, then it becomes a rotating column of air. But to see it over the snow when the ground is cold, that's pretty rare to spot that.
You also associate that with bright, sunny, cloudless skies where there's uneven heating of the air. And ultimately, that's what causes this. But the way I envision it is you're within a snow squall or a convective band of heavy snow.
Right.
What ends up happening is some of these squalls do act in nature kind of like a thunderstorm circulation with rising warm air and falling cold air.
Yeah.
And maybe there was a downdraft that hit the ground, interacted with terrain, whatever, and maybe you did get a ground up type of circulation from a pocket of warmer air aloft with colder air at the ground, but it's localized.
It's very
localized.
I do notice there's a change in terrain where it looks like it's starting from like a valley to kind of a flat there, and I wonder if that's kind of created a little spin locally to get that air spinning and to get that snow elevated off the surface. But it's essentially the same dynamics behind a dust devil.
Yes.
But without dust, we're dealing with snow.
And winter in northern climates means ice fishing and skating, but being out on the ice can be dangerous. Meteorologist Ryan Munn reminds us how we can stay safe.
Here are some tips on how to safely measure the thickness of the ice. First, you need an ice chisel or an auger. You'll want to grab a tape measure and hook it to the bottom of the ice, but focus on the clear blue ice as it is stronger. It's important to test multiple spots because certain areas may have less ice than others, and of course, be very careful. So how much ice do you need to be safe? If it's less than 2 inches, stay off. 4 inches is safe enough to walk on and go ice fishing. You need at least 5 to 6 inches of strong ice to bring out the snowmobile. And once you're between 8 and 12 inches, you can drive a car or a small truck on it. And lastly, you need a foot or more to bring out a medium-sized truck.
Now, the Drake Passage, a 600-mile stretch between South America and Antarctica, is one of the most dangerous bodies of water on Earth. Thousands of tourists cross it each year on commercial cruises, but it's not an easy journey. On this week's edition of Off the Radar, Emily Gracie spoke with a travel influencer who has made the crossing 8 times. Here's a preview.
Between South America and Antarctica lies some of the most treacherous ocean conditions on Earth. Travel influencer Alyssa Ramos has crossed it 8 times.
It is like one of the most unnerving feelings I've ever had.
It's the gateway to Antarctica, but it's not for the faint of heart.
It goes up in the front, slams down in the front, and then rocks from side to side like a roller coaster.
Relentless waves, extreme winds.
Your wine glass is flying across the table. Silverware is like trying to stab people at the next table by flying at them.
Today we're going off the radar and into the Drake Passage. We'll learn the history, the science, and the experience of this notorious body of water.
And you can listen to this week's episode of Off the Radar and all our other episodes anywhere you get your podcasts. As we go to a break, here's a look at a fantastic holiday light display at home in Ashburn, Virginia.
Well, a very good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Chilly today. We've got a few light snow and wintry mixed showers kind of to the far north and east part of the Midwest for the day today. And then tomorrow, a little bit of light snow up here across Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan. Still kind of chilly for the day tomorrow. And by the time we roll on into your Sunday, just a little bit of light lake effect snow. Otherwise, most of the Midwest dry for any traveling Sunday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. We're waking up into the 30s this morning, all the way from Amarillo across into Little Rock. But take a look down into Brownsville, back over in New Orleans, 50s and 60s there. We're looking at a little bit warmer day than usual as warm air slides in from the west, cold front slides down to the southeast, and plenty of sunshine comes back for the day. Look for a warmer than normal day. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
I'm George Waldenberger with your forecast for the western United States. Phoenix beginning to warm back up near 80, San Diego 71, that looks nice to me. Even 70 in Denver, but we're still pretty stormy with the atmospheric river now pushing toward northern California. We'll have more mountain snow, and boy is it ever windy from the Pacific Northwest all the way through the Midwest. That's the scene from out here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
And now here's meteorologist Katie Morgan with this weekend's football forecasts.
A lot of great NFL matchups this weekend. Let's start with some Saturday matchups. Green Bay taking on the Bears in Chicago. This should be a good one. Temperatures chilly at kickoff, 37 degrees, but nowhere near where we were last week in those single digits. And the Eagles are in D.C. taking on the Commanders. Temperatures at kickoff look to be around 44 with a few clouds. Really, the weather looking great all weekend for matchups. Temperatures in Baltimore for Sunday's game against the Patriots should be around 40 with partly cloudy skies. That is a night game. The Buccaneers taking on the Panthers in Charlotte, North Carolina for an afternoon matchup. Nice, comfortable temperature this time of year at 60. And the Jaguars taking on the Broncos. This is going to be an evening matchup. Temperatures in the upper 40s with a partly cloudy sky. All right, hope you're having a great start to your Friday. Have a great weekend. I'm meteorologist Katie Morgan.
And we'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Don't forget the winter solstice is Sunday morning at 10:03 Eastern Standard Time. Have a great weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday for the National Weather Desk.